Hi, welcome to the Peter Repeater, episode 45. I thought I would sit down and with my cup of tea, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna drink this cup of tea before the podcast because that would mean that I would have less slurping to do. But I saw someone click on the channel on the YouTube video, so I thought I might give them something to watch. So yeah, thank you for listening and watching today. I've got some exciting things that have been happening. One exciting thing is there's this game called Go. It's like chess, but it's harder, and it's so complicated, and I've played it so much with my friend now that I'm just sitting there doing other things in my day now, and I'm just considering Go moves, and I'm thinking, well, if someone placed here, then I would probably place there, and I can just I can see the pieces in my head, and I'm just thinking about the Go moves, and then I do like 2 or 3 moves in my head, and I'm thinking, what am I doing that for? You know, I don't have a Go board in my head. I don't have all 300 or so pieces in my head at the moment. Why am I going through situations and figuring out where to put them? It's because I've been playing too much Go. I haven't even played that much, but just playing last night for like a couple of hours. It's so intensive. And some good news, I finally won because I keep on losing. Yeah, so that's good. And the other piece of good news is I was on a podcast. Not this podcast. I was on a podcast in America. Obviously, the podcast's on the internet, so I'm just checking if I'm in the centre here. Yeah, I was on a podcast with some Americans, and I was so nervous, but I was talking on their podcast, and I wasn't sure how it was going to go. Because I listened to their podcast before, and they were like talking about sports, which I know nothing about, and they were like making jokes, giving bad advice and everything. And I thought, oh, how am I gonna, talk about sports, and how am I gonna come up with jokes? But what they did is they did an interview with me, and then they added it on to the end of their normal structured podcast. So instead of being a half an hour episode, their podcast, I made it an hour episode, and I thought, what are they going to edit? But they didn't do the most technical editing. They just added one onto the other, and I just start off the podcast like saying, "Hi, can you hear me?" And then I didn't really understand how it worked, and oh, we're recording right now. We start the conversation, and this is a podcast. No talking off air. It was all on air. So it was great, and and I think it could have so easily have been like a 10-minute interview. I had that feeling that it was going to be a 10-minute interview, and they might edit it, and then I might only get a 5-minute in a half an hour podcast. But good on me and and my words, it must be all this practice. We made it half an hour of talking. Brilliant. So, yeah, first experience. I'll think of Go moves right now. It's just first experience of people interviewing me and being on someone else's podcast. And I've never been on a podcast where I've got other people to talk to. I have to admit, it's better. You know, it does improve situations having people to talk to. So, you know, I've got to obviously listen to myself now. I don't listen to my own episodes very much because you know I'm talking and I would rather watch something else. But I might listen to their podcast even though it's got me in it. Yeah, I did. To my credit, I did talk a little bit about sports. You know, shoved in a few technical terms like NBA and NFL. And I listened to people on the internet talk about, oh, the NFL season, is that going to start? So I asked that. It's like, oh, is a topical question, like, is the NFL season going to start? And it was a good question. Loved it really. And they were like talking about my podcast, and like obviously I don't have a structure or like a theme to my podcast. It's just my name, Peter, repeating or trying not to repeat, or I don't know, whatever the situation here is. And they've got like music in the background, and they've got segments, and they have different themes. Like it's all about sport, and then they joke around at the end, giving bad advice, and I thought I had to join in with that, but it's probably best that I didn't, because I might have said some horrific stuff, particularly if they were talking about like the NFL draft and getting really technical. I would have been out of the deep end in that regard. So yeah, I'm just fortunate that I was on it and I could eke out half an hour, and they didn't edit it out and didn't cut out all the bad bits like me saying, hi, is this thing on? They kept it all, and brilliant. And it's on Spotify now. It's legitimate. Winning Losers. Obviously, I'm giving them a shout out at this stage. I had to be ruthless at the end because I realised we've gone the whole podcast without mentioning my channel name. So I thought, how should I shove it in there? So I wasn't going to say, check me out on YouTube, The Peter Repeater. I thought, do you know what? I'll set myself up. It probably everyone knew what I was doing, but never mind. So I said, oh, so your podcast is called Winning Losers. I already knew that, but I was just affirming that. And then I would go in with, oh yeah, my podcast is The Peter Repeater, and they left out the Peter Repeater, but then I am the Peter Repeater, so you can call me Peter Repeater for short, of course. At least they spelled it right and everything, and they had a link to my Spotify, so that's fairly cool. And then I'm in the title. I made the title. I was a little bit worried like how significant I'd be on their podcast, because obviously I want to be on as much of it as possible, and yeah, so I was on for half an hour, so I'm happy with that. And I made the title, so they were very generous with that. And then they did a tweet linking my Twitter, and yeah, they couldn't have done a better job really with the whole linking my channel, giving me a shout out. And obviously I'm just gonna watch the views come in, you know. They just go stream in. So now, if their podcast blows up, becomes really big, which obviously it will, like mine, they can shout me out, and then we can be big together. Obviously, that's how this thing works. You have a very small podcast talking to a very potentially even smaller YouTube channel, and then if we shout each other out, it creates stardust. It creates a magic, and then we suddenly succeed. We get big audiences. That's the dream. Anyway, I'm just happy I had someone to talk to. That's really all I can take from this. I had people to talk to, and then I said, "You're welcome to be on my podcast," and they didn't discount it. They could have just said no, but they didn't discount it, so I can cheekily ask them on my podcast. Obviously, I don't know when. Don't know when I'm going to do that. Could do it soon. Could do it later. Maybe I'll leave it a week. Let things settle. Let the viewing figures just speak for themselves, of course. And we get some people on my podcast. Get a Zoom meeting set up. I don't know what the quality is going to be like. You think this is shoddy quality. It might get really bad quality. It might get horrendous quality, but I'll actually have people talking, so it will be a proper official podcast, and it's going to be great. And I hope on their podcast I had like a microphone, so I hope my audio sounded good, because one of the guys called Sean, his audio sounds good, and the other guy, Drew, his audio doesn't sound very good, so I wanted my audio to sound good, so hopefully the internet doesn't stuff that up. But I was impressed with how quick it all was. There wasn't a delay that I could think about, that I could notice. Did do a fair amount of talking. We talked about comedy. He's a stand-up micer, and we talked about all sorts. I think it's great. And then he was like talking about the longer you do it, it's like practicing for a sport. The longer you do it, the better you get. You get past the stage fright in year 1 or 2, and he's been doing it for 10 years, and it just sounds brilliant. And he's got his material, and he's writing material about the coronavirus, and building his performance, his routine, and it just sounds like it's like my dreams. It just sounds like all the comedians I listen to on YouTube, like Joe Rogan, Brendan Shaw, Brian Callen, and Theo Von, and just them talking about their practicing and working hard at it. And it's like, I'm friends. I've joined the circle. I've made it. I'm talking to a 10-year veteran of a comedian. Just, he knows the trade, he knows the business. Open micing all over the place. Performing in Nashville. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But these guys met in college like many years ago, so they'll be older than me. Late 20s, 30. And then the nerve-wracking question at the end, what do you do for a living? Obviously I'm not going to say nothing, lockdown and stuff like that, but obviously when they ask what you do for a living, I'm going to say the best answer I have, my official answer. Obviously I've just finished my my job that I've done. I've just finished that. That's just happened. When someone asks you what you do for a living, that was so recent that so obviously that was very recent, and I'm just waiting for the university, which is very soon. It's a very small gap in between things, and I'm practically so close in between those two things that I practically can identify with those two things. So I said I'm going to do a university course on coding, which is all a bit up in the air. I don't know if it's going to start, and don't know. Do I want it to start? Do I want to start my life? I'm not really sure at this stage, but maybe I'll get a clearer picture in the coming months. Maybe I'll be eager to be productive. I kind of forget the person I used to be, that I used to do stuff, go to work and be productive. I kind of forget that person. Just don't know who they are at this stage. But I have to remember, there I am thinking of go moves again. I just have to remember I'm capable and I have an ability to do stuff and be productive. I've done education for many years. I've been productive. I've done work. It's possible. All these magical things that people do, I can also do. I can wake up early in the morning and do stuff in my day. So that's the idea with this this future of mine, doing stuff in the day. So obviously I'm going up in the world, aren't I? Things are happening, and I'll get on it, with the whole podcasting. They titled their podcast episode "We Go International with Peter Repeater," and like the first thing I'm like, where's the "the"? And I'm like, okay, I wouldn't have put the in because it's a bit clunky, but it's the Peter Repeater. How are you going to find me? And then I, settled with the fact that when I search Peter Repeater on YouTube, I still come up first. So all is not lost, and I can just about survive, and the shout out will be of worth. I was just so pleased they put me in the title. It's just brilliant. Obviously I've got to put them in the title now. Put them in the title. My title. My podcast. Do I have a podcast? I don't know. It's just me talking in my room. A podcast ever become anything more? Probably not. They just get better at talking. Like the podcast I watched this morning, like what are they talking about? Like they're talking about the Michael Jordan documentary that I just watched, and he was going through it all, and I was like, oh, he's got a good memory and stuff. And he's just talking about the documentary, and it's really cool. The Michael Jordan, and then they mentioned it in the podcast, so things pay off, research and all that. Just watching this documentary as it came out, they talked about the MJ documentary, and that in the podcast I was just featured in, obviously. The people I talked to on the internet, but they'd said MJ documentary, and I was like, oh, what's that? I didn't say that. I just kept my cool, took a few deep, calm breaths, took my standing on the world and just evaluated my situation, meditated on that thought, and then I thought, oh yeah, MJ stands for Michael Jordan, The Last Dance. So I said I contributed and said The Last Dance, and it's just cool. And I do appreciate that they some of these words I say a lot. I said appreciate one too many times in that podcast, but never mind. I do appreciate the I've forgotten. I just do appreciate the podcasting and being in the podcast, and nope, won't come back to me. This is where I need a producer to say, what was I talking about? And then they remind me. I'm becoming an expert. I'm becoming professional. The Joe Rogan always forgets where he's talking about, what he's talking about, and where he is in his words, and then sometimes he never remembers, and then you like feel his pain, and then you know, I've never been so eager to find out to rewind the video. I just feel his pain, and then we move on to the next topic of conversation, and then there we are. So this is the future, people talking to each other in podcast medium and making the most out of the internet. It's the future, and obviously I say that a lot. Never mind, it's just English. You know, I repeat myself. So, you know, in the future, what am I saying? Oh, why did I say that? I'm gonna lose what I'm saying now. In the future, what's gonna happen in the future? I'm gonna have a podcast. I've done it twice now. Oh well. So the next topic of conversation. I knew exactly where I was going with that, and then I said, "What do I say?" jokingly, and then I forgot what I was saying. Oh well. So we've got different things happening in my life. Probably Tuesday's my favourite day. Got my a Bible study and stuff. Come out with my words and my expertise, and contribute to stuff, and get out my dusty Bible, find the place in the book, and then not read it. That's what I usually do. One day I'll read this Bible out loud, but till then, we'll just in the podcast. So this talking is great. Just that's the future. Talking, and I'm part of that future. Maybe that's what I was saying. So just hearing what people have to say, and just listening to conversations. I just find it really interesting. So I want in the future. I'm falling apart. I want to have people on my podcast. So quite a lot of episodes I'll have a guest. I'll probably do a Theo Von style where I have guests quite often, and then sometimes I'll do one by myself, and then you have that flexibility. And Theo Von, he has like calls in. I could do that potentially. I suppose that's content creation. But right now I'm probably doing a Chris D'Elia style, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know whether it's Chris D'Elia's fault, and he's probably one of the most interesting people out there. I don't think he is, but he probably is, and he's just talking by himself, and I'm like, this is not great. You know, even if you're talking rubbish to another person instantly makes it way more interesting. Which is why I think the podcast I was just on is amazing, because you got people talking to each other. I don't think it's a revolutionary thing, but it's a step in the right direction. And if I can get some guests, namely the people I talked to yesterday, if I get them on here, do a Zoom meeting, then obviously that just opens the door, opens the floodgates to other people coming on here, and it'll be cool. Look forward to it. So yeah, I do stuff with my day. Probably not. Probably need to have an occupation, do something for a living, to be honest with you. Probably makes life interesting. Probably don't feel like you're just getting bored, just doing the same routine every day, easy life, just thinking, yeah, I'm going to do something nice in the morning, and then, yeah, I'm doing something nice before I go to bed. Nice stuff in the daytime. It's just nice stuff linked after nice stuff after nice stuff, and it can get, it's not the most interesting all the time, but no, it's quite good. I like it. I'm getting more comfortable with it. The lifestyle is starting to grow on me, starting to suit me. And obviously, I might be able to have a lifestyle like this one day. Just a more relaxed lifestyle where I have a studio and I can talk to people in my studio. Like, my dream would probably to do something like Joe Rogan, but not do anything else, like not complicate life. Also doing MMA commentary or doing stand-up comedy, because that's quite a lot of work, the stand-up comedy, and a lot of traveling and everything. So I want to be able to just to do a podcast and just do a 3-hour podcast in the daytime and chill out for the rest of the day. And that would be my dream life, probably. Because some things are cool to do, but it's just a lot of work. And the world sort of forces you to do stuff which requires a lot of work, but one day I just don't want to do that. So I just think the plan is, I'm not thinking too far in the future, but just lock down and then do things I like this podcast, do it for a hobby, and then, worst case scenario, it's a hobby and I like doing it. So if you like doing it, it's just worth it. So I just think I'll continue in that vein and see what happens. And if it turns into, I'm just thinking about talking in my room every day, but it doesn't have to be like that. I can talk to other people, and then it doesn't seem like I'm stagnating and not getting anywhere. I feel like, oh yeah, I'm having these cool conversations. It's like, it's really valuable. So that's what I want to build up towards. Get to a stage where I can keep on inviting people on and keeping having conversations with smaller channels like myself. So I did the first step on that journey by talking with my fellow podcasters yesterday, and I cheekily said, "You're welcome to go on my podcast," and they didn't discount it. They said, "Oh yeah, we could arrange that," and hopefully things will go well. Things will escalate, and I can grow just the interest of my channel, because that's all I can't control how many people watch it, but I can control how interesting it is, and an interesting podcast to me is very valuable. So yeah, I'm just excited about being on someone else's podcast. I think it's cool. We go international with Peter Repeater. The Peter Repeater. Amazing. And we can I was I was getting all technical, like just splatting off things I heard of other podcasts. Like, do you think, what's a priority? Is it the economy or the stopping the spread of coronavirus? And the other two, they were like, well, we want to stop the spread of coronavirus, but I'm not sure they realise how bad the economy collapsing is, because we don't really know what happens. You can have a Great Depression. It can lead to unstable society unstable stuff and civil unrest, and it can lead to civil conflict and wars, and could lead to a global war. All these things could happen. This is what just name drop other people that I haven't met but that I listen to. Brett Weinstein. This is what he says on his podcast, The Portal. Did he say it on The Portal? Or did he said it somewhere else? But he's talking about the big nap. That since the end of the Second World War II, we haven't had any big events, big catastrophes happening globally. So this is the end of the big nap, and the coronavirus is going to kickstart bad things happening. So we've got all that to look forward to. This is why I'm not really so keen on the whole deal of, let's start my life working in a stable job. Is just not feeling it at the moment, and just not feeling it. Hoping that I can what do I want? Do I want to just stay in lockdown forever? Do I want this life? I might not. It's just the thought of other stuff, you know, cooking for yourself and doing all your washing, and just chaos, really. Just all these things to do by yourself, and then on top of that, having a productive day, studying and university, and let's just name something else which is exactly the same: school, college, education. Work, and So hopefully I like my future. You know, there's been parts of my past that I liked, some parts I didn't like. I just hope I like my future, and I think I will like my future. I like my present. Yeah, I like my present. I've got things I do, things I like to do, and maybe this lockdown isn't perfection, but you can get comfortable, and you can focus on the good parts of the day. And people used to ask me, how are you? And I'll be like, yeah, and I'm thinking I'm not really that great, but now I'm like, yeah, I'm okay, I'm fine. And then sometimes I even feel good. So I think I'm making progress, and hopefully I can keep that, because I think I got in a really sort of low mood generally for a couple of years, I would say, just with my work and not liking everything, and so it's getting into that happy place again. I want to stay in that happy place, and I also want to be able to do things I genuinely like doing. So just looking forward to Flight Simulator to come out, really. And I know I can play the old Flight Simulator, but there's just a new Flight Simulator. Trying to say a word. It's a very good game. It's just 150 gigabytes, so I'm gonna have to make room on my SSD. Have to make room. Have to get rid of Grand Theft Auto 5, which is a sad story. Get rid of NBA. Maybe I shouldn't be getting rid of those. Maybe I just have to settle and put the Flight Simulator on my disk drive. Sad times. I don't know if I can do a switcheroo. Probably not. Can you just switch a game's location? Probably not a good thing to do. Probably have to uninstall it, reinstall it. But will I manage without Grand Theft Auto 5? Quite possibly. I've never played it. Well, no, I have played it, but not for a long time. So I can't see myself sitting down and playing it. And if I am going to play it, I'm going to play something else like FIFA. And the NBA game, I don't really play either. Don't really understand the controls. So I could probably safely get rid of NBA and Grand Theft Auto 5, make room for that Flight Simulator on the SSD. This is later on this year when it comes out. So those two games are like 60 gigabytes each. So make room for this 150 gigabyte mega game. That's what I'm hoping for. I think it will happen in due course. That's the right thing to say, in due course. So I was due to finish writing my book. I was going to do 1,000 words a day for 10 weeks. And then I'd have 70,000 words, but I managed 4 weeks and then published it anyway. Probably got more satisfaction out of it that way. I then had a book with a whole lot less of work. I just sort of, as all the good authors do, just sort of run out of stuff to write. So I just left it. Didn't make it a very long book. So that's the kind of stuff I've been dealing with. The book sale management, author, full-time author, full-time book enthusiast, and I just can't even read my own flipping book. I read it twice, so I just wanted to read it again. I read it twice, so I read it once. So I've basically read it 3 times. So it's like, oh, and I might have read it as I went along, so maybe 4 times. Does that count? If you write something and check it, does that mean you read it once, or do you read it twice because you're basically reading it as you're writing it? I think you read it twice. I read it, wrote it, checked it, read it twice, and I want to read it again because I've got the physical copy. So that's the exciting life of me, really. We'll get somebody on here. It'll happen. Thank you for listening, for what you have done. It'll happen. We'll get someone on there. Give it a week. We'll find someone. We'll get a guest on here. I don't know if we'll manage 3 hours. I don't know if I can be Joe Rogan. Baby steps. But we'll look at the camera, of course. We'll get people on it. And the technicalities, it's probably best just to record stuff and then upload it to like preserve quality and everything, because I know that if I recorded this podcast in 4K and like edited it and I then uploaded it, I could upload it in 4K and get a really good quality picture, because the quality of this camera is actually far better than what it has to go through to get onto the live stream, but it still ends up quite good on the live stream. So I was about to say I can't complain. I'm complaining, all right. So yeah, it's just this, and then if think of Zoom, that's not good quality to begin with, and then shove that through the live stream. What's that going to end up? So it might be that I should record it, but I just love live streaming. It's so easy. It solves everything. You just live and it's boom, it's live. People can watch it. It's all live. It's really fun. I always watch something when it's live. So because I love live, I will just shove on the Zoom live. If I don't try live, then I will never know. Just shove it on live and then get the shoddy quality out there live. But it might turn out to be passable. So what I'm hoping for, I'll make sure to get all my best gear. No, I won't. Zoom is a nightmare. I can't use my tripod and my camera and everything if I tried. You know, it's complicated because what I need to look at the Zoom, I need to look at my laptop. So I'll just put on my webcam and put on my gaming headset, and that'll do. Yeah, so there we are. There's the future of my podcasting. We'll have some people on here. Hold tight. We'll get some guests. Going international with Sean and Drew. That's the hope. We're gonna go international like they went international on their podcast Winners Losers. Check them out on Spotify and Anchor.fm. Winners Losers. Right, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. It's another episode. We'll get people on here soon. We'll have conversations. We'll make this interesting. Bear with. It'll be fine. Thank you. Right, what am I gonna say? So my Twitter at the Pete Repeater, and my Instagram at Peter Newing. There's a picture that I took. And then here's my book, An Unbelievable God, by Peter Newing. Get that on Amazon. It's a good read, obviously. I'm definitely going to read it. I have read it, right? So, check me out. I don't know. I just don't know this outro. I haven't got this smooth thing. Thank you for watching. Till next episode. Bye for now.